Ooh, well, how you doing? Uh, Today is the 22nd of August, 2024. Time now is around 10 to 2. We are in Finsbury Park, North London. We're going live, and yeah, we're going live. And so we're in Finsbury Park. This is London. This is the UK. The temperature today is about 20 degrees, and I think average it's meant to be about uh, around 22, 23, around that. But do you listen to the weathermen and do you listen to the politician? So today, Thursday, 22nd August 2024, around 2 p.m., temperature around 20 degrees. You got a wind chill, you got slight wind chill. Today's overcast, and welcome to welcome to autumn. And the leaves have started to fall off the tree. Temperatures actually dropped. We've managed to have a couple of really nice days, extraordinary hot days over the August period, and it has been enjoyable. But the leaves are beginning to fall off the tree, and you got to go into this autumn mode, uh, you know. But this is Finsbury Park, and like a friend said to me, she said, "What happens if it's rain? If it's raining?" So what happens if it's raining? Then we're just gonna bring an umbrella, and we can still do it outside. And we just got to be careful we don't knock down the equipment and stuff. So uh, so it's gonna be raining, and then in a few months' time, it'll probably be snowing, and it looks like it's a little bit damp. Look like it's a little bit damp at the moment. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to spin the camera around to get me in the edge, because I'm gonna have the pigeons in shot. We can see what they get up to on the. You can see what they get up to in the background. So just about get me right. Yeah. So we're into the autumn phase of things, and uh, politically, I remember when I started this. This was, I think, around May, and at that time we still had a conservative government in, and suddenly they decided to, I think in June, they decided to go for an election, and it was for the 4th of July. And so we had the whole upside down thing about the election, and voting, and vote conservative, and my independent local MP, Jeremy Corbyn. And we had the problem with Diane Abbott, because they didn't want to let Diane Abbott back into the Labour Party, but at the last minute they managed to do that. So we are at a whole heap of political changes. Let me just put my jacket on, because the temperature is dropping, and as you can see, there is water, and there is a little bit of wind. So I like it a little bit warmer. So we had political upheaval as we went into the election for uh, the 5th of July, the 4th of July. Well, it was announced on the 5th of July. And here we are now, and the Labour government, straight off the mark, started to do work on what is necessary. So the first big problem was actually the prison, problem, the overcrowding and not enough spaces, and I forgot what they call it. The- There's a project name for clearing, well, not clearing, but managing the so much people in prison, and there isn't enough space. So that's the first thing they embarked on. The second, what the then just a couple of weeks ago, we literally had we can call it a race riot. Some people are calling it the Farage riot, and we're just in the tail end of that, in the sense that um, there isn't any more social unrest. There isn't any more social unrest, as in it was basically a race riot, and they call it the far right. Now the wind is blowing in the background, and I'm wondering if it's rustling and hustling the sound on the camera. So I might be going in and out because as the wind actually rushes on the camera, the sound actually changes. And I got some pigeons as an audience. I don't know if you can see them there. I got one or two pigeons there. Um, but back to the subject. So we had the race riots, and the government has managed to handle that pretty swiftly. So far, there's been about 1,000 people arrested, and I think about 450 of them have actually been sentenced, and they've still been sourced. The people who are rioting, they call it a race riot, and they're still going through the court system. And if you follow the whatever media, mainly the print or online, then you can every couple of days, you would see uh, who prominently has been sentenced, like um, a grandmother um, who's been sentenced because she was there and she was handing out bricks to whoever, and so. But that's the print media. But part of the problem of why we got to have a race riot is because there are certain broadcasters, certain commentators, there's certain politicians, including the Conservative Party, who played on this race baiting, dog whistle. The problems we have is not because of the incompetence of the Conservative Party for almost the last 14, 15 years. Literally incompetent. Every organ of the state are in crisis. And so, in order to shift the focus off of them, they give the narrative that it's Johnny Foreigner. These people coming on the boats, it's immigration. We don't mean you're okay, but it's these ones that are coming in on the boat. And they're causing all the problem because they're taking all the resources away from government because government's got to look after them. And this is the narrative that's been spewed by conservative politicians, by far right politicians, by referendum party politicians. By the way, they got 4 MPs, and by conservative politicians who are bidding for the votes of these extremists. But Nigel Farage and Enoch Powell I said again, Nigel Farage and Enoch Powell were Conservative MP. There is a bitter racist element to conservatism. And I remember when it was during the Thatcher election, it said one of the slogans were, "You're not black, you're British," in order to get the ethnic minority vote, you know. And so they will play these games of inclusion, not exclusion, but reality for a lot of people, a lot of ethnic minority, and let me add poor white people, the ones that were rioting a couple of weeks ago, who are now being sentenced, who calls out for this, calls out that there is a two-tier police system, policing system and judicial system, and they're probably, and in their mind, two-tier every system in government is against them. And okay, I want to say that these are poor white folks, probably poor in education, probably poor in stature, and probably made to believe over tens of years and many years that the British Empire and who they don't have to do much. Everything just comes to them. And because of how the government's been handling those economic situations, basically it's about the money. All the institutions have not been given money by the government. And when they do get their money, they still have to implement a cut in running costs, whether it's staff, whether it's maintenance of the building, or in order to combat inflation. And inflation, what is inflation? What is your interpretation of inflation? For me, inflation is prices that are rising every month, more or less, every month. And the government give this figure of, or the Bank of England, they go for this figure of 2%, and they use that as a target. But everything in our lives go up at different rates. Food price compared to last year has gone up by, for some people, 1/3 or even more, right? Or even by 50%. Some products have gone up by 50%. A good example is the fuel, well, basically electricity and gas. Petrol has gone up gradually still, and year on year, everything goes up in price. And after 10 years, everything actually doubles in price. But because they actually do it in such a small, incremental way, you moan about it when you go to the shop and an extra 20 pence has gone up. You moan about it for a month or so, and then you kind of get used to it. But here's the trick of the government, right? Here's the trick of the government. If you can't afford a car, if you can't afford a house, if you can't afford food, all right, if you take the food for a start, the government would help subsidize the food bank. And the food bank would get subsidized by charities and donations and physical manpower is free, people would actually work for free with their time because they want to give something back to society. But that subsidize your food, right? But here's what, the prices don't go down. If you find yourself slightly better, that you don't need the food bank, when you go and buy food, it's at a new price, and you still have to buy it at the new price. We have a major problem at the moment because we've got people actually walking into shops and walking out of shops with food. Some do it individually, some do it in gangs, right? So there's almost, and the enforcement of it, I hear the police don't even attend those things. The shops or the individuals have to find some way of bearing the brunt of that cost. So that is the major problem. But basically, when you don't go, when you, if things have got that little bit better, then you don't need to go to the food bank. But when you go to the shop, you are now experiencing the new price, and it might be 50% on some product, 30% on some products, and it's not as little as 2%. It goes up. The food thing goes up much more. I think in general, the food price in general for your weekly or monthly shop has gone up by 1/3. But that is the government subsidizing it, but it doesn't bring down the cost. The ULIS thing with the mayor and the government. So if you want to update your your car, or not your car, it was a commercial vehicle. If you needed your vehicle to actually work, the mayor actually gave you money to help subsidize. So it might be 1/3. It might be money so you can buy a ULEZ vehicle in order for you to continue to do your work. But the prices of the vehicle remain the same. It is higher than before, right? An electric vehicle on average is about £50,000. I remember, I think it was about 10 years ago, the average vehicle was, for middle class family, was like £20,000. Now it's £50,000. In fact, the manufacturers of these electric vehicles, the consumers are not buying it because it's actually, they can't afford it. They're actually changing and reducing. In fact, they actually, some of them are giving profit warning that they ain't gonna make the money for selling at that kind of level. I heard today on one of the financial programs. So what they're gonna do is that they're gonna use a smaller battery in the car, and it's gonna be a hybrid. So they're going for that model, and it's gonna be slightly cheaper than the full electric version. And plus, there's another problem with the full electric version. There isn't enough places that you can actually go to charge these electric cars, electric van, electric vehicles. And the other thing is, if you're on the motorway and you have to pull in to charge up for an hour or so, I hear the cost is actually prohibitive, as in a sense it's about the same cost as filling up with a tank of petrol. So that's where the prices are still rising, cost of living is still rising. So the latest thing, actually Boris Johnson said it in the last government, that they were going to help people in social housing buy their houses. It was just noise. It never happened under Boris Johnson. This Labour government has recently said within the last couple of days that in order to fund the local councils and social housing, in order to fund social housing and the council, in order to build new houses and flats in relation to the shortage of houses or housing, one of the things they're going to do is actually increase the social rent by inflation plus. I don't know. They did it. They did it. They did. The conservative did it. April, right? It told social housing, and it told the inflation plus 5%. I don't remember what uh, Claire Starmer said or what the latest thing is, but this year in social housing and social rents and council housing, council rent, it's going to go up by about 2% plus 5%. And if that happens every year, in a very short time, social housing and council rents would actually double. And I say probably double in about 6 years, right? Now, the government can never pay the bills. And the reason why the government can never pay the bills is because the cost of running anything, whether it's a business, whether it's you're at home, whether you're running a flat, whether even if you're on the street and you're homeless, the costs goes up. So if you're a government, any of the government sections, whether it's the fire, whether it's the police, for running those buildings, whether it's the fire station or the police station, whether it's the police, sorry, not the police, whether it's the prison service, the cost of running those business goes up. The cost of heating those building goes up. The cost of maintaining those buildings goes up. The individual who works in those buildings, or the police officer, or the teacher, the lawyer, or the doctor, or the park keeper, or anybody that's working, if you go into their personal life, their rent has gone up, their food has gone up, their council tax has gone up, their water has gone up. And what a cheap, anyway, the water's gone up, the electricity has gone up, the gas has gone up, especially the fuels has gone up by, and especially the fuel and food has gone up by an astronomical amount. And yet they say, oh, it goes down, it'll go down. If it's risen by 30%, then they say, oh, it's going to drop down by 5%. And they go, oh, it's going to be cheaper. No, it's not cheaper. It's still about 25% more expensive than it was before. And then it's going to rise again by another 2% year on year. You know, so the reason why the government can never pay the bills is because the costs goes up. And after a while, this 2% or 5%, after a while, the cost just like shoots up exponentially. And what the government, and even government, all right, let's go to the last government. What the government does, it does not tell you that the cost of everything has gone up, because we are in an economic system that causes all of that. This economic system only benefits the few. The many has to pay. The poor has to pay. The poorer you are, the more you have to pay. You know, you don't get a special offer if you can't pay on a standing order or a yearly. If you pay off yearly or in one go, it's actually cheaper. If you have to pay in installment, they charge you extra interest for paying installment every month. Your TV license is like that. The car insurance is like that. Your mortgage, I mean, who can afford £1 million? You know, if you could pay it off all in one, you don't have to pay the mortgage interest rate, which is like, in a lifetime, is like 2 and 3 times the original amount. The young people of today have no chance, and even if you have a good wages and there's two of you, there's still no chance of you earning a house. In fact, the kind of rent you've got to pay just to survive takes away all the money. So we are in a very strange conundrum. We have to tell, and we have to tell the people, and people have to realize that the economic system that we're in is designed, after a while, the prices rise exponentially. And it's looking like at least 50% of us can't afford to live at the moment, right? Well, live properly or live, I don't know what comfortable is, but just sustain living without pressure, financial pressure. But the way the economic system is now, who could afford a car at 50 grand, an electric car at 50 grand? People don't buy cars now; they actually lease it, right? And you can see how the prices are rising almost exponentially. It's going to reach a point where 90% of the people won't be able to afford just to live in an okay. I don't know what comfortable means, right? I don't know what comfortable means because of the economic system that we're in. Look, every year, all these companies would say that we have to increase our profit by 10%. They do that sometimes by increasing the price of the product. And in some cases, if you're smart, they do that actually by decreasing the price, not decreasing the price, decreasing the size and the amount of the product. And they keep the price the same. So you think it's a really, really good bargain until you look at how much you're getting. So from 500 grams, you're now getting 400 grams or 350 grams. But you still feel, but you're given the illusion that the prices has remained the same. This government, this Labour government, has been in for like about 6 weeks, around 6 weeks. Haven't said anything about the economic situation, and all you're hearing is that indirectly taxes is going to go up, prices is going to go up, and that is true, right? In order to pay for the cost of how things are rising, prices have to rise, right? But one of the biggest bugbear under the Conservative government, the last government, not this one, the last one, is that they would not give people the pay rise that they need in order just to live properly, right? There's a thing called minimum wage, and there's a thing called London living wage. In America, they got minimum wage and they got a living wage. If you paid the minimum wage, you can just about survive for some people. But for a lot of people, probably 50% of those on minimum wage, they have to go to the food bank. They have to get subsidy from the government somewhere, because they can't, the money that they have coming in cannot pay the bill, whether it's food, whether it's fuel, whether it's rent. And just going back to work, there's a cost. There's traveling costs. You got to eat when you're at work, right? There is probably, you got to wear clothes, so you got to buy clothes. If you're a business now, you can offset that if you make a profit, you know, because it's working clothes. You can offset that on your tax bill. But prices continue rising. One of the bugbear of the last government was that it wasn't giving anybody rises. So there were strikes. Every week, there was a London transport strike. Every week, the nurses and the doctors was out. Okay, this government, this Labour government says, we're going to give you a pay rise. We're going to try and make sure the money that you get would help to pay for the lifestyle that you're used to, right? So we can't have a doctor earning the same wage as, I don't know, a minimum wage person, right? And this is where if you think that we were all equal, this is where we are not all equal. Because if you're working for a minimum wage, right, you're struggling. Or yeah, minimum wage, you're struggling. If you're working for an average wage, depending on what sector you're in, you might be okay. If you're working in the government sector, you might be struggling to keep up with the lifestyle that you think that is owed to you for the type of job you do. Whether you're a doctor, whether you're a dentist, whether you're a policeman, whether you're a fireman, right? Even in the military. So the government cannot pay the bills because the price, everything is rising much more than the money they're actually giving to the different departments to pay to keep them running. Education, health, legal system, prison service, police system, leisure, as in parks, council, the amenities, right? The water thing has been privatized, the electricity thing has been privatized, gas has been privatized, and the post office has been privatized. It is very expensive to post a letter, right? And all these things that are privatized, how these economic system works, how this free market works, is that they are allowed to charge you anything that they want, as long as you can pay for it. So they would increase the price year on year until you bawl, until a certain amount of people can't afford the services anymore, and they don't necessarily drop out. Yeah, let's say they drop out, and then suddenly the government realized that these people cannot afford the basics. So the government actually comes in, either indirectly or around the back, or tell these companies that they have to have a special tariff for the people who are below the mean. Or we haven't heard that word being used, bandied around in politics. Poverty, the people who are under the poverty level. Forget about the people who are actually hovering above the poverty, just on the poverty line, and the few people just above the poverty line. As their rent go up, they'll fall below. As their food goes up, they'll fall below. As running a car or a vehicle goes up, they'll fall below. So the people falling below the poverty line is increasing, and it's increasing rapidly. I tell you, just on my daily rounds to the park and just around the park, I can see people sleeping in tents. I could see people sleeping on the streets. I could see people early in the morning sleeping in the transportation concourse. Now they'll be there very early in the morning, and before rush hour time, they will get moved along. If it's a very hot day, like the few summers we have, people would end up staying in the park almost all night. Not very few people do that. Just one or two people do that. The odd one or two people would do that. Right? It's a very big park. So price is always rising. We are not told how the economic system works because it works for the few, the 1%ers, the people who invested in these private companies, the people who invested in these big companies. And year on year, these companies have to make a profit. Even though some of them have made a loss, the directors of those companies are getting astonishingly large wages compared to the ordinary man. And even when the company makes a loss, they actually get a bonus, right? We've been stuffed. We've been actually screwed, right? And if you're caught up in that, if you're caught up in the poverty trap, right? I don't know how you handle it. Look at students these days. If you want a university course, average about 20 grand a year. I don't know. I think it's gone up to 30 grand a year, right? When you leave your education, whether fully qualified or not, you end up with a bill either from 60 grand to 100 grand. In America, Joe Biden was trying to pass an amendment to wipe the student debt, right? Because that's one of the biggest millstones. Being young today, one of the things you're going to suffer. You may never get over that. You're blighted. You're blighted with this weight around your neck, probably for life. And then with the advent of AI, as some people saying, a lot of these smart jobs where you need smart people, it's now using smart computing, as in artificial intelligence. Companies have made a prediction of it's going to take away a lot of jobs. And as far as I'm hearing, it is actually start happening. So even though you're well qualified and in a very unique skill, the technical world, the technology world is also moving at a very fast rate. And these multi-millionaires, these multi-billionaires, these people, all right, we haven't got so much pigeons in the shot now. Maybe just send to me. Right. These multi-billionaires who are sending spacecrafts to the moon, right? And you can actually book your holiday on these spacecrafts already, which haven't been fully developed and thing. But you can literally start booking your trip to the moon. These people are the owners of these tech companies, are putting billions of pounds because their stock market valuations is actually next to trillions of pounds, and therefore they can go to the bank and borrow the money at whatever the bank rate is at the moment, and or sell their shares and liquidize their capital and put it into that investment, or they can release more shares and people will buy them and therefore take that money and sink it into the moon. So we're kind of in a real ridiculous kind of world. Some people are actually living in a kind of apocalyptic state, but still believing in a dream. But their day-to-day life are in a total and utter disarray. And I know, because I talk to those people almost every day, right? And some of them have decided to turn to alcohol, and some of them have decided to turn to drugs. Some of them are on psychotic medication. Some can't handle it, so they crack up. And here's the irony: you can't take the pressure, so you crack up. But there isn't the space in those mental health places to look after you. So they leave you out in the open with normal people. And so serious are one or two of these mental cases. Just a few months ago, one went around stabbing and killing people, you know. And because people have been told the reason why the problem is Johnny Foreigner and people who are brown and people who are black, the aggrieved family feels that it's not the mental health problem of the person who caused the crime, which was a triple murder. They feel it's a race issue. So the economic situation and the rate is growing. The good thing about this government so far, it's not telling you anything. It's only telling you, the only news I'm at the moment, it's only telling you certain things are going to go up, and it's promising you things are going to get better. I think it was Tony Blair and the conference song was "Things Will Get Better." Well, 20 years later, it's got a lot worse. Because again, it's the economic system. But Tony Blair was pretty good at buffering, at subsidizing the people who had fallen through the gap. He was pretty good at giving them something to just keep them just above, not falling into the gap. But still, prices and costs still rise. So if you bought a house in Tony Blair's time to buying a house now, let me make a guess. Let's say it was 100 grand back in Tony Blair's time. Let's say that's 20 years ago or so, right? 100 grand. Now it's £500,000 to £1 million. How can you afford that? The economic system that we're in is the poor is going to get poorer. And if you know where to invest, whether it's houses, whether it's the stock market, whether it's in private company, you will get better. You know, so the stock market, when you hear that the stock market is increased or the price of raw products has gone up, whether it's copper, whether it's gold, whether it's uranium, whether it's a food product, eventually, if that price has gone up, the basic buying and selling price of that product has gone up, and if it's fundamental to how you live, in 6 months and a year, your price when you buy that product is going to go up. And people forget that. And you constantly told not to, well, not, you're not told not to look at it. It's just not talked about. The other thing we've got also is that we've got two wars. We've got Ukraine with Russia, and it's sort of not talked so much about now. Ukraine has taken some territory in Russia. I'm waiting for a bang. And what I'm seeing at the moment is that Russia is actually intensifying certain aspects of the war in relation to Ukraine. But it's not being reported. You're always given the impression that things are hunky-dory and it's going well. The Ukrainians are asking for bigger and more powerful weapons. Look, if you supply bigger and more powerful weapon to a friend who is in war, you now become an enemy of your friend's enemy is now your enemy, because you're helping your friend who's the enemy. And I think that's a very, very dangerous road to go down. But we're slowly walking into and walking in that direction. We're sending more arms. We're sending them more money for their economy, to keep their economy going. That is slowly and slowly. And they're asking for more. They're asking for bigger. They're asking for better. They're asking for faster. Right? We are slowly walking in, and we're going to be part of that war if we already not part already. So that's one war over there. The other war we got is in Israel. It's over 40,000 Palestinians and probably more. I'm waiting for another big bang. Why doesn't America and Britain tell Israel to stop going and kill leaders of whatever group? 3/4 of the world, 3/4 of the world agree that there is a Palestinian state. There is a Palestinian plate. There's a Palestinian place. Very few people, well, not very few people, one third of the world would follow the narrative that the Palestinian people haven't got a land. They have no rights. They should be killed. They're not even talked about. We have people here every weekend, every social event brings it to the forum. That is what is happening in Palestine, the Gaza Strip. It is wrong. We're waiting for a big bang from that end, because Israel has decided to kill a couple of Hamas and Hezbollah generals on other people's soil, sovereign soil. We're in autumn. We're going into Christmas. We've got to prepare for winter. We've got to prepare for winter. We've got to prepare for Christmas. Next week is actually a bank holiday. Next Monday is a bank holiday. And sometimes that week, if you enjoy the weekend, that bank holiday weekend, then the following week will go very, very quickly. In fact, the following week will be the end of the month. In fact, after you spend all your money the week before, which is like starting tomorrow, Friday, after you spend all your money, you've got the regular bills, plus you got the bills you've spent over the bank holiday, this holiday weekend, this 3 or 4 days, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. All right. Now, business-wise, economically, a lot of businesses use this August, every August, in fact, to judge how well they're going to actually do at Christmas. And some businesses would judge how this bank holiday coming up, they'll judge how well they do. And some business would actually fall. Some business will actually chuck the towel in, even before Christmas. And the way the economic situation is going at the moment, if consumers and customers haven't got the money to buy the products, whether it's luxury or basic, then we're going to have more companies going under. In fact, in the leisure business, the pubs and the clubs, there is an acceleration in them actually shutting down. So this weekend, next few days coming, is very important to a lot of business. They will use that to judge how well, whether to invest in stock for Christmas, whether to carry on going through Christmas, whether their rates increase, rents increase, staff increase, products increase, people thieving from their shop increase, whether it's worth it or whether they're going to chuck the towel in. As an individual now, you got to figure out what kind of Christmas are you going to have. You know, are you going to be buying Christmas presents? You know, have we got these companies that over the years have you put, I don't know, £10 a week in so that when it comes to Christmas, you have £500 or £1,000, right? And I remember it was around 2008, one of those companies actually went bust, right? And how many financial companies like that is going to go bust? You know, so winter, well, not winter, autumn is here. You've got to go out and spend and buy warm clothing. Have you got the money? One of the biggest arguments at the moment is about certain amount of the OAP won't be getting the heating allowance. People are being misled, and they've been manipulated in order to believe that the old age pension is going to be in problems. No. If you are getting a benefit of some sort, then you would either get it automatically or you'll have to apply for it. If you're getting a pension and you don't need any government subsidy, then you won't get it. I think before, everybody over a certain age used to get it, right? Whether you got enough money from your private pension or not, you still got it. But if for some reason you fall below that line, you can apply for it. And how do I know that? Because I've been watching it and watching the system in relation to that. for the last 6 months or so. And so I have a better handle on it than most people, and most of these commentators, most of these TV stations, most of these radio presenters who haven't got the facts, who actually just guess and say, oh, it's gone that way, or this is not going to happen. And guess what? It does happen. And it's happened to a lot of people. And those people are struggling. Those people are out on the streets. Those people got mental problems. Those people are thieving stuff from the shops. Those people have been misled. They want to go and burn down hotels. They want to chuck bricks at the police. They want to burn police cars. They want to go and they want to riot and break into Greg's. Those people have been misled. And still, they've been misled by these hate preachers on the far right, these broadcasters, these shock jockeys. It came from America. It was called shock jockeys. And so they decided to use that kind of style over here. They want to shock you, right? They want to shock you with their opinion, not facts. What they tell you is their opinion. And people get it mixed up and messed up. And they believe that these presenters, either on these race baiting TV station or race baiting presenters, dog whistling, what have you, they're giving you their opinion. They're not giving you the facts. And one of the masters of bending light is Donald Trump. Alternative facts. I'll leave you to work that out. So as we go into autumn and then winter, is this new government going to subsidize the poor, whether you're on universal credit, whether you're on retirement, whether you're on disability? Is this government going to help you with some subsidy to get through this autumn and this winter month? But I tell you what, you've got to get through the next couple of weeks. It was really surprising that when I told people that we had a bank holiday in the next few days, actually, they're still surprised. And there's still a lot of people don't realize it. And I don't know whether the weather has turned, whether we're going to get any more warm days or whether it's going to stay like this. This is overcast, and this is slightly, because the wind is blowing, it is lower than 20 degrees as far as I can feel, right? You got to get over the next couple of weeks where you got personal expenditure because you got a bank holiday. The personal expenditure that some people spend on the August bank holiday is just as big as Christmas. Then the next following few days is the end of the month. You got your regular bills. You got your gas, electricity, telephone, water, rent. And those of you who are coming up to get a new mortgage, whether it was whether you had 0.5%, the interest rate, which was like 2-3 years ago, and your mortgage every 5 years or whenever you change it, now it's gonna come up for renewal, and it's probably gonna be twice the amount, right? So from 0.5%, less than 0.5% base rate to more or less 5% base rate. If your mortgage is set today at that, you know, how are you going to pay for it? So the next few, you got a couple of well, from five to 14 days, and you got to handle that, you know. September, October, November, December, those 3-4 months going up to Christmas are sometimes the hardest and the toughest. And if it rains and if it snows and if the weather is bad, and if you need a major, whether your car is broken down or whether you need a major repair, and remember it's hurricane season as well, you know, there's hurricanes and what have you, and you get caught up in that, how do you handle that how do you handle that expense, you know? And what happens if you have a personal tragedy? How are you going to handle that, you know? But anyway, we, in a few days time, we'll have the Notting Hill Carnival. It's a time where people go and celebrate. I think more to get away from the pains in life rather than to celebrate anything fantastic. I might pass down there. There's one or two people that I know regularly participate in Carnival. I might pass down there, but I've got nothing to celebrate. I'm still just striving to stay at zero, you know. I remember I used to have a joke with my friend a few years ago. I said, "Oh yeah, I got a couple of £1,000 coming," and they go, "Oh yeah, fantastic." I said, "He's going to bring my account up to zero because I owe that amount of money, right?" And with all the price rises and everything going up in price, and it's a bank holiday as well, so prices will go up. You won't get any bargains. You won't get anything cheaper. It is going to be very, very interesting, and it's going to be very, very interesting how the government is handling things. The only thing that's been said at the moment is that you got more pain coming, and they're saying that in a subtle kind of way. But is there going to be? I don't know. What does good times look like? You know, we got 2 wars. You got a cost of living crisis in your own personal life. All the bills has gone up. Every organ of the government is in crisis. Police forces in special measure. The hospitals, a lot of them are in special measures. The prison service is in special measures. The legal system is backed up for years. Education, we got some schools and classrooms falling apart because of an inherent problem. We got teachers who are stressed out, and a lot of people are actually leaving the profession because it's so fully stressful. You know, I don't know, but in either case, hope to be back here next Thursday. My colleagues, in fact, I was promised 2 and 3 of them. Domestic situations have come up, so I'm here on my own. But between now and next Thursday, I might do some live streams. So check in every now and then and see if I'm doing a live stream. Or I think there's an alert. If you subscribe, then when I go live, I think you get an alert. You know, so if you find this interesting, and most of the times, the reasons why I do this is to say to you that I've said it to you in the past before the government has actually passed a policy or before things have actually changed. And this is almost like a video diary, you know, and it's also partly to do with what's on my mind, what's affecting me now, and different people, different things will be affecting them. There's one friend of mine who meant to be getting an operation, and it hasn't got cancelled. Is that they not responding seriously to the communications and who they meant to go and see and the pre thing and what have you. And the reason they're doing that is because their life is in a mess. They're below the line. They've got psychotic problems. They've got a lot of physical ailments. Not only are they taking psychotic drugs for mental problems, they're taking drugs for the physical problem. They're taking other stuff as well, right? And they're not concentrating on themselves. They're only concentrating on I don't know, surviving or just trying to get a high, either it's drink or whatever kind of substance or what have you, you know. And usually over the bank holidays, we usually have a lot of domestics, you know, family things about, you know, the children, who's going to take the children, or you know, these divorces, husband and wife kind of thing, you know, who's going to get the children, you know, the wife won't let me see the children, you know, we got divorced, you know, maintenance and, you know, the maintenance for the child. So there's lots of domestics. There's lots of domestics without children and custody and what have you. And there's lots of domestics in the sense that when you're abusive relationships, you know, the individuals are under pressure from basic day-to-day living, so they take it and their partner. It is basically 90% men abusing women, and there's about 10% of women who actually abuse men as well. So, and there's all kind of abuse, and there's all kind of neighborly disputes, you know, and people usually lose it, you know. So have the best bank holiday you can have. Try and stay safe. Try and look after yourself first of all, and then if you can, look after others. And I'll see you next time.